say predating us.
Okay, we're going to ask everybody to come in and please take a seat. We'll be getting started in just a moment.
You met her.
So nice to see all of you. I'm Amy Honeywell. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at Matheny. And I'm so excited to welcome everybody here for what would have been Chuck Matheny's 85th birthday, which is why we selected tonight as the night to do this program and kick off our 80th anniversary celebration. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our President and CEO, Nancy Hamstra, for some welcoming remarks.
Good evening, and welcome to Matheny. Thank you for being here on this momentous occasion, our 80th anniversary kickoff event. Before I introduce you to our keynote speaker tonight, I want to point out that today would have been Chuck Matheny's 85th birthday. Tonight we celebrate Chuck's birthday and his accomplishments. Despite living with cerebral palsy, Chuck drove a car, held many jobs on campus, and even loved to mow the lawn. Those who had the pleasure of meeting Chuck remember his sense of humor, his can-do attitude, and his tenacious spirit. Happy heavenly birthday, Chuck. It was Chuck's birth that inspired his parents, Walter and Marguerite, to develop a school for children with disabilities to learn and live a full and happy life without limitations. Today, we are proud to continue their legacy and to be able to share this special story with you. I see many new faces here tonight, and I want to welcome you to Matheny and invite you to come back anytime so that we can build upon this new friendship. I'm also glad to see many familiar faces. First, I want to recognize our board members. Second, let's applaud the Matheny employees who are here. I also want to thank our many donors and volunteers, including the Friends of Matheny, who have been with us for more than 4 decades. These amazing people selflessly give up their time, talent, and treasure because they truly care. Finally, I want to shout out to the students and the residents and the program clients that are the reason that we are here to celebrate 80 years of their extraordinary accomplishments. And now to our guest of honor, Barry Thomson. Barry was born and raised in Peapack, Gladstone, where he was a friend and classmate of the Matheny's daughter, Mary Ann Betts. After graduating from Drew University and the Harvard Graduate School of Design, he became a frequent lecturer and author on regional heritage. He went on to have a distinguished corporate career, most recently serving as Senior Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of Woolworth Corporation, now known as Foot Locker. Barry is a co-author with the late Jack Turpin of the 2-volume work, New Jersey Country Houses, the Somerset Hills. He also serves as a history consultant for 7 Mansions in May, fundraisers for the Women's Association for Morristown Medical Center. Barry has served as an executive producer for 2 documentary films, including Employability, which was narrated by James Earl Jones, which promotes the employment of people with developmental disabilities. Please join me in welcoming Barry to the stage.
Thanks, Nancy. Welcome. It's a privilege and a genuine honor to be here. As Nancy said, I've known the Matheny family since the 50s, which says nothing about my age. And met Chuck and his parents and Mary Ann, I think probably when we were in kindergarten together, which is quite a while ago. But a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank Nancy, Amy, and all of the staff here have been so incredibly helpful The things they do here are so impressive. You can't help but walk away and be thoroughly impressed by the lives they've changed and made whole. So the Mathenys' Lives and Legacies of Caring, History of the Matheny Medical and Educational Center. I put this the first screen slide because it's the groundbreaking for the original building here in 1954. And it was a groundbreaking, as I say, in every sense of the word, not just of a building, but of the success that the Mathenys brought to this issue. As Stephen Proctor, a former president of Matheny, said, "Some people dream of the future but are unable to shape reality. A few, like Walter and Marguerite Matheny, actually turn their dream into a reality and leave a legacy that forever changes the landscape of life." So true. In 1966, 20 years after the school's founding, Walter Matheny said, quote, "Time and again I hear parents ask the same question I asked 25 years ago. Why me? I had no answer then, but I believe I have one now. If our son Chuck had not been born with cerebral palsy, Marguerite and I never would have gone into this work, the school never would have been built, and hundreds of children never would have been helped by the wonderful staff we have been able to assemble." Where did it begin? Hibbing, Minnesota. About 75 miles northwest of Duluth, where Marguerite and Walter met. The city of Hibbing was built on mining the rich ore of the Mesabi Iron Range. The picture in the upper right is the house at 2809 3rd Avenue in Hibbing, where Mary Marguerite Hughes lived in 1930, the year she graduated from high school and enrolled in Hibbing Junior College. It's probably the same house that her parents, the Hugheses, lived in before they sold it to move here to help their daughter and son-in-law. Hibbing High School and Junior College, it was the same building that housed both schools. And as I said, that's where they enrolled in college. Walter had moved to Hibbing from Minneapolis, where he had grown up. One notable other graduate of that high school was the musician Bob Dylan. Who knew? The picture on the left is the Edison High School in Minneapolis, 1928 graduates, which included Walter, and above him in the picture, his elder sister, Yvonne. Walter Dwayne Matheny was one of 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, of William and Etta Matheny of Minneapolis. William owned a meat market, Central Provision Company, where Walter worked for a time after graduating from high school in 1928. His father either would not or could not support and fund his desire to attend the University of Minnesota. So after working at various jobs for 2 years after high school, Walter enrolled in 1930 at the junior college in Hibbing, which had free tuition. A football injury at Hibbing caused Walter to be hospitalized and lose the better part of his first year of college, thereby delaying his graduation until 1933. Serendipitously, a friend of Walter's who happened to know Mary Marguerite Hughes took her with him to visit Walter in the hospital. Evidently, there was an attraction. In part due to the effects of the Great Depression, Walter and Marguerite had a very modest at-home marriage in Hibbing on June 4th, 1936. After graduating from junior college in 1932, Marguerite went to the University of Minnesota, graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree in 1934. She returned to Hibbing to teach biology to 7th and 8th graders. While Walter was at Hibbing, he won a scholarship that covered tuition for his last 2 years of college at the University of Arizona. He graduated in 1935 with a Bachelor of Science degree in physical education, a major that obviously would come in quite handy later. After graduating from the University of Arizona, Walter returned to Hibbing and, like Marguerite, taught in the public school system. He taught phys ed and coached while she taught biology. Walter started a program for the, quote, correction of physical defects by means of exercise. Keep in mind, this was long before Chuck was born. Through this program, Walter was able to develop theories and philosophies in a field in which very little research had been done. After speaking to the Chamber of Commerce about the remedial aspects of physical training, the word spread, and soon parents were coming to him for help with their handicapped children. Little did he know then how significant that work would become later, following the birth of Chuck. After Marguerite and Walter's June 1936 marriage, they honeymooned by driving to Iowa City so Walter could work on his master's degree. Unfortunately for Marguerite, in those days during the Great Depression, married women were not allowed to teach, so she had to quit her full-time job. I think she did some substitute work. To make ends meet, Walter dusted off his earlier training in his father's meat market and in his off hours did butchering work at the local A&P. In 1971, 36 years after he received his undergraduate degree from the University of Arizona, the school awarded him an honorary degree. Daughter Mary Ann, then an undergraduate at the school, was proud to be in attendance. As the president of the university wrote, "You have devoted your life to the welfare of children. Pioneering achievements by you and your wife, Marguerite, have inspired great progress in the education of the handicapped and have produced worldwide benefits for cerebral palsy children. In recognition of your contributions as educator and humanitarian, the University of Arizona confers upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws." Put this in too, it's an interesting picture I found in the newspaper in Minneapolis in 1937. Two athlete brothers reunite. That's Walter on the left. In June '37, he was the coach of Hibbing High School's track team and a former track and football star himself. He attended the Minnesota State High School track meet that year. And the Minneapolis Star-Tribune reported that he, quote, enlisted one strong rooter in his younger brother Bill, who was then the star halfback on the University of Minnesota Gophers football team. March 30th, 1941, 85 years ago, as Nancy said, life fundamentally changed for the Mathenys. Charles Hughes Matheny was born that day, and Matheny's lives were forever changed. Immediately, the attending physicians and the Mathenys knew something was wrong, but it was not until sometime later that Chuck's condition was diagnosed as cerebral palsy, a neuromuscular disease. Walter later said, quote, "Before he was an hour old, we had decided that if his handicap was a physical one, we would devote our lives to helping him and other children like him." In a 1949 article about the Mathenys, journalist Mildred Grayofsky wrote of Chuck's birth, quote, "Until that time, the work of this dedicated couple was absorbing, interesting, heartwarming. With the birth of their son, it became a personal thing, a thing of the heart. The real spark, push, challenge. Their lives, ambitions, hopes, efforts, strength, worldly possessions belonged to them no longer. Their entire existences were rededicated." Some pictures of young baby Chuck with his parents. What a sweet kid. And I challenge anyone to ever see a picture of Chuck Matheny when he's not smiling. World War II years. This is his draft card on the left, and a handsome Walter on the right. In 1941, not long before the attack on Pearl Harbor, Walter is one of 6 civilian consultants appointed to the Army Air Corps to set up and run physical training programs. The job involved a number of moves for the family. First to Montgomery, Alabama, then to the basic training flying school in Americus, Georgia, then to Miami, Florida, where he said they, quote, made officers and gentlemen of us in 6 weeks. In 1943, the Mathenys were transferred to the Advanced Flying Training School in Valdosta, Georgia, where Walter was in charge of physical training for both British and American soldiers. From Georgia, Walter was transferred to Army Special Forces to rehabilitate injured servicemen. First assigned to the hospital program at Fort Devon in Massachusetts, he was later transferred to a large convalescent military hospital in Cape Cod. An article in a Boston newspaper about Walter's rehabilitation work for the military prompted 2 people, one an adult paraplegic and one a young girl with cerebral palsy, to move to Cape Cod to receive hands-on physical rehabilitation from Walter. All of this was, of course, impetus for the Mathenys to establish their own school. Chuck's first rehabilitation treatment, though, was in Florida. When he was 2 and the family was stationed in Valdosta, Mathenys heard about a school in Florida that might be of help. Marguerite and Chuck visited the school, and Chuck was accepted for treatment. Within weeks of his enrollment, the school was relocated to Long Island, and Marguerite was asked to join the staff as a teacher by day and nurse's aide by night. As a result, she soon learned many of the skills which serve her so well in the future. The Milton Berry Foundation, which was really the unplanned final impetus to establish the Matheny School. In March 1946, Walter was released from active duty and given an honorable discharge from the Army Air Force. Evidently, his rehabilitation work for the Army had been noted, and he was recruited by the Milton Berry Foundation for Paralysis Correction, headquartered in California. Walter, Marguerite, and Chuck moved to the Berry Foundation's headquarters, where Walter was placed in charge of staff training, and Marguerite worked as a speech therapist. The foundation had been founded in 1899 by Dr. Berry to deal with symptoms of infantile paralysis, or polio. Following Dr. Berry's death in 1939, his son and namesake took over the foundation and expanded the range of treatments and the number of treatment facilities to 15. In July 1946, the Berry Foundation opened its first East Coast facility here in Far Hills, with Walter Matheny placed in charge. An article in the Burnsville News announcing that the new school opened in Far Hills. It announced that the Berry Foundation's rehabilitation work had evolved beyond treatment for just polio to include, quote, those affected by paralysis from back injuries, polio, as well as spasms, by which they meant cerebral palsy. Unfortunately, the program was limited to a 3-month treatment program. The Berry Foundation was quite active out in California. Dr. Berry had posted weekly columns in the Los Angeles Times, and they had even in 1930 founded a Delta Phi Lambda sorority established by Dr. Berry, quote, for women afflicted with paralysis. Interesting. But first, a short digression into local history. I'm guilty. The Far Hills building that housed the Berry School and later the Matheny School had a long history as a school. The building that came to house the Berry School in Matheny started out as the Dumont, later changed to Dumont family homestead. It was likely built in the late 18th century. From 1808 to 1819, it served as the parsonage of Reverend Charles Hardenberg, pastor of the Bedminster Dutch Reformed Church and the founder of the Bedminster Academy, an early elementary and preparatory school. Picture of the house is there below that. In 1915, the building housed the Somerset Hills School, quote, a modern and progressive boarding and day school for young boys and girls, founded by Evelyn Baker Schley Bears, daughter of financier Grant Schley, the often termed founder of Far Hills. Sadly, Evelyn died in 1919 in the influenza pandemic, and perhaps the school closed as a result of that. But in 1924, from then until the start of World War II, the building housed the Somerset Hills Preparatory School, generally known as the Fair School, named for its founder and headmaster, Reverend James H.S. Fair. The Fair School was remembered by Charles Scribner as being, quote, frighteningly Dickensian, but without leaving any permanent educational damage. Reverend Fair had previously been vicar of the Chapel of St. John on the Mountain in Burnsville and headmaster of St. Bernard's Farm School in Gladstone, and briefly of the Morristown School. He enlarged the building with additions in 1928 and 1930. In 1942, the building housed the Naval Aviation Cadets Training Center, with ground school training in the morning and flight instruction in the afternoon at the Somerset Hills Airport in Basking Ridge, which no longer exists. My father happened to be one of the teachers of that program. For 1 year, from 1944 to 45, the Far Hills Country Day School moved into the building before returning to the former William Page estate, which is still the school's present location. And as I said, in 1946, the Berry School moved in and remained until 1949. Explaining that its facilities in Far Hills were inadequate, the Berry Foundation closed its Far Hills School in 1949. And shortly thereafter, the newly named Walter D. Matheny School for Paralysis Correction moved in, having relocated from its original Burnt Mills site. Just to finish the bit about the building, in 1957, after 40 years functioning as a variety of types of schools, the Far Hills building was converted to a combination of retail shops and professional offices. There's a picture of it. I don't know how many of you have been around for a long time, but I remember a penny candy stand in that store. And the building was The first Matheny School was in Burnt Mills. It was called the Burnt Mills School and Summer Camp for Paralysis Correction. And it was the first school from December 1946 to November 1949. The Mathenys signed a 3-year lease of what was then called Hatfield House, a former boarding house on the Burnt Mills Road west of Pluckham. Here's an aerial shot to locate it. If you're familiar with the area, it's the north branch of the Raritan coming down from the upper right to the lower left, where it merges with the Lamington River. There's nothing left of it except the concrete foundation, but there are two buildings behind it that were there when the Mathenys were here. So in late 1946, the Mathenys placed a small ad for the Burnt Mills School in Good Housekeeping magazine to get the word out. They had an opening staff of 3, Walter and Marguerite and one other, and an opening enrollment of 3 children. By January of 47, they had 4 children, and by June of 47, 30 children when the summer camp had opened. The original capital was $3,000 from a GI loan. Could anything operate today with that limited amount of money? Today, the Matheny Medical and Educational Center has about 625 full and part-time employees. What growth? I think that's Chuck with a straw in his mouth. Over the last 80 years, untold numbers of area businesses have donated not just funds, but products and services, even pony rides. This is a picture of students at the Burnt Mills School riding in a pony-drawn cart of the young and hip dairy products business of Somerville. The pony was the company's mascot and also pulled Santa's sleigh in the Somerville Christmas parade. During the early years, the treatment program was one of adaptive physical education, academic instruction, functional speech therapy, and recreation. Given the school's location along the Raritan River, a summer camping program was added in 47, 48, and 49. The picture on the right from the newspaper shows Marguerite on the mat with Chuck, I believe, and Walter on the upper left. The Burnt Mills Summer Camp showing college-age counselors, staff, residents, and volunteers. Summer camps were run in the 3 years they were there, 47, 48, and 49. The Thomson, New Jersey posted this in one of their articles in 1947. The primary objective of the summer camp is to give the handicapped child an opportunity to compete in recreational activities with others on a level in which they will have an opportunity to be successful. We feel that the handicapped has just as much right to have fun as the normal child, and this opportunity is rare. It really sums up the role of the school to try to maximize the right of the residents here and the students to live as full a life as they can. The physical facilities of the camp included 4 newly constructed dormitory buildings, recreational and dining hall, large bathhouse, 18 acres of land with recreational facilities, and a beach on the river. The word did spread. One kid traveled all the way from Tokyo for paralysis treatment, having heard about the Burnt Mills School. They had some key outside advisors in the early years, which were key to getting the school up and running and getting the word out about what they were doing. One was Dr. George C. Deaver of the Institute for the Crippled and Disabled, later the Institute of Rehabilitation Medicine at NYU, who had met Walter through the latter's work in the Army. The other was Dr. Winthrop Morgan Phelps, who had established his own clinic for the treatment of cerebral palsy in Baltimore. Walter would later study with Dr. Phelps. Dr. Deaver reportedly said to Walter, quote, "If you're a damn fool enough to start a school for these kids, I'll be damn fool enough to help you." The Mathenys got a big boost at Burnt Mills when Marguerite's parents, Chuck's grandparents, Charles Spikey and Maud Biddy Hughes, sold everything they had at Hibbing, Minnesota, and moved here to help out. Charles ended up being the business manager for the Burnt Mills School, and Maud was the head housekeeper. With an increase in public awareness and the number of students, the school came under inspection by the state of New Jersey, of course. Inspectors determined that the school facility did not meet state standards, and the Mathenys determined that the facility was not worth spending the required funds to make it meet those standards, so they decided to move, which brings us back to Far Hills. From November 1949 to December 1954, they moved what was then called the Walter D. Matheny School to the Far Hills building. With the move to larger, but functionally still less than ideal quarters in Far Hills, the treatment program was expanded to include physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and special education services. In April 1950, the school was incorporated as a nonprofit with a board of trustees for the first time. During the years in Far Hills, a program of services was developed to meet the needs of a child with cerebral palsy and the additional handicap of blindness. Quote, "This was a pioneering effort and the first program of its kind." The Special Services Program was expanded to include other basic needs such as routine visual and dental examinations, pediatric examinations, and psychological evaluations and studies. Before the move to PPAC in late 1954, the Matheny School in Far Hills had a staff of 34 and 42 patients, ages 3 to 16. Before long, it became apparent that the rented facility in Far Hills was neither adequate in size nor appropriately laid out for the rehabilitation work of the school, and increasingly it became more of a challenge to meet government standards. After a search, a 38-acre portion of Blairsden, the former C. Ledyard Blair estate in PPAC, had become available and was purchased in 1951. An additional 43 acres were later purchased. The property included 5 of the original outbuilding structures on the Blair estate, including the large and elegant brick and marble stable and carriage barn. It's an article in the Burnsville News about the purchase. They purchased the 38-acre tract for $1,000 an acre. Challenge you to do that today. In 1952, not long after purchasing the PPAC property, the Matheny family expanded with the adoption of Mary Ann. Chuck was clearly thrilled. And it was the Matheny family around 1960 having dinner. Here's a sketch map from 1926 of part of the Blairsden estate. There, you can see the stable and the other outbuildings behind the stable, the main mansion, of course, Ravine Lake. Basically, this, what had been a drive on the Blair estate, basically follows the road you may have come in off of, from Highland Avenue. And this was originally called White Cottage, which is a house the Blairs lived in while they were building the big house on the hill. It was later called Windfall. I'll show you that in a second. So the Blairsden mansion at left, designed by Carrere and Hastings, architects of the New York Public Library. A 50,000 square foot residence was completed in 1903. I call it the 50,000 square foot starter house. And the Blair coach barn and stable below, which was actually the first building built on the estate. Even before the mansion, they had to have a place to put their horses. Here's another picture of the Blair stable around 1903. It included the usual tack rooms and hay and feed storage, as well as housing for grooms and an elegant trophy room. The building is extant today, although it remodeled and enlarged to include the Proctor Center of Medicine and Dentistry. It was established in 2003 and named for former Matheny president and CEO Steve Proctor. Here's an aerial shot from the 1930s of the Blair estate. You can see the mansion over here, the lake running around in an S shape, and of course the stable. And I'll show you more of a close-up picture here. This is not Stonehenge. This is a round horse track for the Blairs. Down here was their skeet range. You all have them, don't you? And the stable and outbuildings on the estate, which of course proved important for the original Matheny property here. Here's a picture of Florence Jennings Blair driving her tandem gig on the track at Blairsden with the stable behind. And here, of course, is an aerial shot. We are, of course, here right at the moment. And this is the original Matheny building, that U-shaped building, and all the others that did stable here. The original Blairsden Auto Garage is now Matheny offices. I'd love to have those cars. The original Blairsden Garage was converted to a residence for Jimmy Thomas, the Blairs' longtime groom and later chauffeur. In the early Matheny years, the building was occupied by female occupational and physical therapists and teachers. The building, as I said, is extant today as office space. The new Blair Garage, adjacent to the stable and carriage barn, in the early days it was converted to a residence for male staff. In 1952, in the Burnsville News, they announced that they were halfway to their goal of $93,000 for the budget to move the school from Far Hills. With the prospect of building and equipping the new building in PPAC, fundraising in the 1950s was always a key part of Walter Matheny's work, with the aid of his college friend and board president, Francis O'Brien. Walter gave countless talks, and the two men applied to some 300 foundations, making innumerable presentations and providing countless tours of the school and the new PPAC site. In 1951, just 5 days before an option expired for Matheny to purchase the property, a $25,000 grant came through from the Devella Mills Foundation of Montclair, and the remainder of the funds were obtained to close the $38,000 deal. Appropriately, the Devella Foundation had been, quote, created simply for the purpose of benefiting mankind. In June 1952, a critical donation came in the form of a $25,000 pledge from the Kresge Foundation, provided the school raised the balance of the building fund, of course. Another big boost came from the Mary Doane Foundation, which had made a $10,000 grant. Walter went to Mrs. Doane's house in Newark to thank her in person for the donation. She was so impressed with his personal visit that at the end of the year she sent an additional grant of $25,000. Once again, after thanking the foundation for the additional grant, the Matheny School received another grant from her for $50,000, quote, to get the building started. Fundraising for constructing the new Matheny School included appeals to foundations, as I said, 24 of which did make donations, as well as from individuals and local businesses. Many local tradesmen donated free labor and building materials. Anthony Ferranti, for one, a builder and quarry owner from Bernardsville, built a road at no charge from Blair Drive up to the new Hilltop site. Special events were also held. One was a classical piano concert at the Morristown High School in October 1952 by piano virtuoso Marino Nordelli, a resident of Bernardsville. He was the son of the founder-director of the Verdi Conservatory in Naples, Italy. He graduated from the Royal Conservatory of Music in Naples at age 16, the youngest in his class. And after moving to the United States in the 30s, he gave concerts across the country as well as in Canada. He also taught music at the Gill St. Bernard's and Morristown Beard schools, and was the director of the New Jersey Choral Society and organist choir director at the Grace Episcopal Church in Madison. It was actually at that concert, Mary Ann told me recently in a talk, that someone came up to the Matheny's and said, by the way, there's a little girl born recently who was up for adoption. And they were intrigued, and that became Mary Ann Matheny. So from the groundbreaking on March 14, 1954, the new building on the hill was completed 9 months later. Can anyone do a kitchen redoing? The original construction budget of $93,000 in October 1952 had risen to $233,000 by March of 1954. The original plan was to utilize and remodel only the 5 existing Blair's constructions. John Terry, a builder in Bernardsville and later a devoted trustee, as was his son and namesake, advised the board to construct a new 1-floor building, which he said would be less expensive and more efficient than remodeling the older buildings. The existing buildings were, however, altered to provide housing for 35 staff members, a gymnasium, storage, and other functional areas. The new 1-story, 19,000 square foot building had living quarters for 50 children. And this is his bid for the building, John Terry's bid. They obviously opted for the additional $11,000 for brick veneer. It's an aerial shot of the new building. You can see the Blair stable on the left and the new U-shaped building on the right. It was designed by local Basking Ridge architect Peter Paul Dupay. He was educated at the University of Notre Dame. He had designed residences in the Somerset Hills, served in the Army Corps of Engineers during the World War II, and for 15 years was an architect for the Franciscan Order in New York, designing churches, libraries, and seminaries. The new building was completed in December 1954, and children and staff moved in on December 23rd. What a Christmas present. An open house was held in January of '55, and a formal dedication was held that May. There's a picture of the Mathenys greeting 2 of the visitors at the open house in January. The school offered an increasing range of therapies, medical services, and educational programs during the 1950s. The Matheny School was acknowledged to be the foremost New Jersey school for children with cerebral palsy and was rated one of the top 2 out of about 50 across the country. Here's some pictures from a mid-1950s fundraising brochure that put together by the school showing the various therapies they were giving to the children. they also had the school here, and of course they still do. The greatest differences in the education program of the school and that of a regular school is in the various means of expression employed by the children. A teacher must be able to understand many means of expression, and particularly so when speech is inadequate or hand-controlled difficult. The regular classroom work is supplemented by various club activities. Some of these activities are as follows: student council, student events club, science club, junior Audubon society, junior Red Cross scouting. Obviously, again, trying to make the lives of the students in the school as close to that of anyone in a regular school. Learning to speak by sensory imitation, another step to independence. Crutch walking, a learned activity. Learning to crawl may be tedious, but can also be fun, etc. Learning to type and to use the Braille writer. As I said earlier, they were the first school to combine both treatment for cerebral palsy as well as blindness. There's a lovely picture of Marguerite Matheny and a resident looking out the window of the new building. Matheny has continued to grow in many ways: in its physical footprint, the range of care and therapies offered, and in community support programs, all to enhance clients' independence and their quality and enjoyment of life. In 1957, only 2 years after the new building opened, growth appears to have been quite fast, for they were planning then to have an addition made to the original building. That's the architect's rendering of the proposed but unbuilt 1957 addition. But in 1964, they did make the addition of this, the original U-shaped building at left was enlarged with the addition of a 25,000 square foot evaluation and planning center and an adjacent staff building, the first of 2 staff buildings. The new building included therapy facilities with advanced equipment, dormitories for students, and enlarged cafeteria areas, 17 staff rooms, and 8 staff apartments. The new center allowed then for a then innovative program of evaluation whereby medical specialists, psychiatrists, psychologists, and staff personnel could study patients over a 12-week period. After correlating their findings, the professionals met with parents and outlined the treatment options, which could involve transfer to Matheny's inpatient center, treatment in an outpatient program, or admission to a custodial institution. Evaluation of children with multiple disabilities was the focus of the center, as it is today. And of course, the main entrance to the house, to the building today. The campus expanded. In 1978, Matheny paid $500,000 to acquire an adjoining 53 acres from the windfall estate of the late Percival C. Keith. The purchase finally gave Matheny direct access to Highland Avenue. Today, Matheny's entire tract consists of nearly 82 acres. Like the original 38-acre parcel, the new tract had also been part of the Blairston estate of Ledyard Blair. It included what had originally been called White Cottage, picture on the top, an enlarged 19th century farmhouse along Highland Avenue where the Blair family resided while building their mansion. The White Cottage land had been sold by Blair to P.C. Keith in 1947. After Keith altered and enlarged the house, he renamed it Windfall, the picture on the lower right. 4 months after acquiring the new land, Matheny sold off 10 acres, including the Windfall residence, to a private buyer. But in the process, they recouped about 2/3 of the original purchase price of the entire property. A good deal. In the early 1980s, a then innovative program was developed to prepare severely disabled and mentally alert young adults for the real world, so that each person could achieve the highest level of independence possible within the limitations of his or her disability. The work component of the program included vocational and pre-vocational training to prepare students for jobs. Originally called the Life Work School, it was housed in a renovated wing of the original carriage house and an adjacent new 10-unit bedroom wing. The new facility was dedicated in 1981 on the 35th anniversary of the founding of the Matheny School. Opened in 2003 in another part of the original Blair stable, the carriage house, the Proctor Center of Medicine and Dentistry provides medical and dental services for both Matheny inpatients and community members with complex disabilities. Medical services range from primary care to specialties including gynecology, optometry, urology, swallowing dysfunction, psychiatry, and pediatrics. The state-of-the-art dental clinic provides all services from cleaning to extraction and everything in between. Matheny has established 7 group homes in Somerset, Sussex, and Warren counties. Shared housing helps residents live more independently and enriches their lives in many ways, from interacting with each other in a home setting to meeting neighbors, volunteering, becoming involved in community activities, and attending Matheny's adult day programs. The picture on the lower left is the opening of the first group home in 1992. And the picture on the lower right is groundbreaking for the 2 new Far Hills homes in 2022. Matheny operates 2 adult learning centers to assist those 21 and older to attain their highest level of independent functioning. One center is in Hillsborough, just south of Somerville, and the other is here on the PPAC Gladstone campus. Participants come for full days of classes and other activities. A variety of sports and exercise options are available, as well as the technology computer lab, yoga, meditation, and sensory stimulation, and group exercises. Also, writing, dance, choreography, painting, and digital art classes are offered through Matheny's Arts Access program, headquartered in this building. Speaking of which, the Arts Access program, established in 1993, then the Robert Schoenhorn Arts Center, this building, opened in 2000. The innovative and award-winning Arts Access program was established in '93. It gives individuals with complex disabilities the opportunity to create fine art using innovative techniques and processes. The client artists work side by side with staff members called facilitators, artists in their own right who serve as the client's arms and legs. The clients are adults who use wheelchairs, have limited range of motion, and are often nonverbal. Most of the client artists provide directives to the facilitators through computer-driven communications devices, boards with words, pictures, and numbers, eye movements, and head motions. What started out as a visual arts program has expanded to include digital art, digital sculpture, a dance and drama program, and creative writing. The $4.2 million Robert Schoenhorn Arts Center, where we are tonight, opened in 2000. Designed by Ford Farewell Architects at Princeton, the building was the winner of a Design Excellence Award from the National Endowment for the Arts. In addition to the auditorium, where seats can be converted from traditional to wheelchair accessible, the center also includes a versatile multi-purpose classroom, workshop area, and a gallery with panoramic views of the surrounding countryside. Who can look more beautiful than Bebeck? Here's a picture of the art gallery and artists in the studio. This untitled 10-foot-tall fiberglass sculpture by Arts Access artist Stanley Bednarz was created in 2001. It's a reproduction of an 8-inch foam core maquette created by the artist. Funded by the Friends of Matheny, it was the first sculpture to be erected in the Matheny Sculpture Garden. Speaking of Friends of Matheny, organized in 1983, the Friends of Matheny have since raised and donated $4.1 million to Matheny. The mission of the more than 100 dedicated volunteers is simple but critical: to aid in the support of and render services to the Matheny Medical and Educational Center. The Second Chance Thrift Shop, now located in Wesley Hall on Church Street in Gladstone behind the Methodist Church building, is Friends' principal fundraising effort. Each year, the thrift shop raises about $150,000. Donated funds over the years have benefited Matheny in a wide range of ways, including technology, such as iPads, smartboards, smart tables, and hallway TV monitors, to medical equipment and light gate walkers, a sensory perception room, adaptive sports equipment, theater and sporting event tickets for clients, and new bedroom furnishings and decorations for the holidays. Miles for Matheny, created by the late Lou Higgins, bottom right in this picture, was the brainchild behind Miles for Matheny, a signature fundraising event at the school. A longtime Matheny supporter, board member for 20 years, and trustee emerita, Lou, who used a wheelchair, conceived of the event as a way to bring together Matheny residents and the wider community, and by so doing, help break the isolation faced by people with disabilities. Initially called Walkin' and Wheelin', the event's inaugural year was 1998. Here's a picture of Chuck in Liberty Park at a Miles from Matheny Wheel, Walk, Run Fun event. Sadly, Walter died in 1977 in this huge obit in the Burnsville News. I don't think I've ever seen a larger obit in the newspaper. They wrote, among other things, Mr. Matheny was renowned among rehabilitation professionals and families of the handicapped across the country and even the world. About 11 years later, Marguerite passed. She wrote two years before that, quote, "We happened to be two people in the right place at the right time. There was nothing at the time for anyone but children with polio. We learned and we listened and we surrounded ourselves with intelligent people. And it was easy. Not so much. It wasn't that easy." Chuck, as Nancy said earlier, at work and play here, he had a zest for life, a keen sense of humor, a love of music, and enduring friendships that he made here. Quite independent, he mowed the lawns at Matheny, plowed the snow, collected the trash, and stocked the soda machines. I love the Cinco de Mayo hat. He died in 2017, died here at his home on the Matheny campus. As the former Matheny president and CEO, Dr. Kendall R. Sprott, wrote, quote, "Chuck was educated here, grew into adulthood, held a job, and made good friends here. Served as a role model and mentor for our students and patients, and lived out his life here until his death at age 76. He demonstrated to others at Matheny how to live a fulfilling and full life, how to be joyful, and how to share joy with others, and how to be an integral part of a community while living with developmental disabilities. I say in a true sense, Chuck with his ever-present smile became the face of Matheny." At some point, I think it's probably when Walter retired from the presidency, the Board of Trustees wrote this to Marguerite and Walt Matheny. Quote, "The Matheny School, what beautiful words those are for the hundreds of people across the land, across the world, who have come here looking for help, and who, thanks to you, have left here with hope and courage restored, able again to fight their unequal battles. In a world where few achieve greatness, you are great. In spite of towering obstacles, you have made an impossible dream come true, along with the hundreds of children and parents to whom you have brought hope and joy. We salute you with love, respect, and admiration, and thank you for the great privilege of having shared in a small way in your achievements. The Board of Trustees." Thank you. If there are any questions, Nancy do so. Otherwise, if there are no questions, Amy's got a mic.
Any questions?
Whatever I can't answer, I'm sure Nancy can.
Does anyone have any questions? Just raise your hand and I'll come over.
If not, there are cookies.
Thoughts,
and
comments?
Comments?
If you want, you can catch me out there afterwards. So anyway, thank you.